So we all know about traditional goal setting. Normally, beginning of the year, you'll try to set goals, or something happens in your life and you are trying to change something, so you set goals. And typically what happens is you will find a daily task that you need to accomplish to essentially achieve that goal. But one thing I've noticed a lot of people don't talk about is, what happens after you achieve that goal? You build this thing up on a pedestal and then you achieve it, and it's not quite the same, right? You thought it would have hit better, it just didn't hit. And so you kind of go into this postpartum depression a little bit because it's not quite what you essentially visualized it to be. And so, I've been doing a lot of different research with Dr. Andrew Huberman, I believe is his name. He's a neuropsychologist, and he brought some great insight into this. This is something why I wanted to bring this up today, and it's about the journey. A lot of times I've even talked about this, and you hear a lot of people say, well, enjoy the journey, but how exactly do you enjoy the journey to achieve the goal? Because really it's about the experiences you have within the journey where you find the most growth. It's getting through the muck, essentially, right, to get that goal. That's where the benefit is of the whole goal in itself, is the changing along the process to get to where you want to get. It's not ultimately the end goal, because you build that end goal up, and once you achieve it, then you're like, well, it's not quite what I expected, so why should I essentially create another goal? Because it's not going to essentially meet that thing that I thought it was going to bring into my life. And so you have to enjoy the journey. And Dr. Andrew Huberman, he talks about this, about essentially the dopamine, right? We are chemical in nature, right? We are chemical animals, and we are trying to look for that dopamine hit, right? And in achieving the ultimate goal, right, you're expecting this big dopamine hit when you get to that goal, but you don't get it. Because essentially it's the grind getting there, it's getting built up all the way. And a lot of times we tend to forget the steps in getting there is where you need to actually be looking. And doing some of his research and going over a lot of his different conversations that he's had, it makes a lot of sense that you need to be focusing on those daily tasks and finding a way. And this is something where it's hard to give kind of like general information about this stuff, because everybody is different. Yes, it's kind of like building the architecture, the blueprints onto how you can achieve this by looking at specific things, where to look. And if you look at those daily tasks, right, what can you find that thing that will give you that dopamine essentially kick on that task? And a good example of this would be, maybe you're trying to, run 6-10 miles, right? Maybe that's your goal. But in doing so, you may find that it's very tough. You do not enjoy the daily tasks of getting up and having to essentially motivate yourself to go out and do that thing. But what in that task, right? And this is something that, if you've run for a long period of time, about that runner's high, right? That dopamine hit, right? That's what you should be aiming for ultimately, because it makes you feel good. It's trying to, essentially get through the grind to getting there, finding the motivation, just getting your stuff on and going out there and doing it, which is the hard part. But, you're trying to essentially knock that task out in the day. And by doing that, you get that dopamine hit, right? So that's enjoying your path along the way to get to that 6 miles, 10 miles. And you realize that if you focus on the task, then, the goal always changes. You'll hit 6 miles, you'll hit 10 miles, and eventually you'll be like, man, you know what? Can I do 12? Can I do 15, 20 miles, right? And so if you're enjoying these daily, essentially dopamine hits, which again is what our body strives on, right, is that chemical reaction. That's what it's looking for. And you notice that across any span, any category you want to go under, we always look for that dopamine hit in some way, shape, or form to essentially help us along the way, right, to get those things that we want in life, perhaps that are essentially voids. So again, going back to the goal setting and trying to figure out what you want in life, you have to figure out those tasks and enjoy the way along the way. And so that way, when you do achieve that goal, you're kind of adjusting on the fly that, okay, well, I've achieved this, the next one, and I'll enjoy the journey, because I know that in that task, I have to actually essentially reconstruct that task, reverse engineer that task is ultimately what you're trying to do to find the benefits of that task. And it's different for everybody, right? And like, you may not be driven by, the runner's high, right? You might see all the other negatives associated with that as opposed to the runner's high. But you want to find what's in that task that you're going to enjoy. Essentially a pat on the back that will allow you to keep going, keep you motivated because you enjoy that and you look forward to it every day. And if you can get it to a point where it's like on a consistent basis, you realize that you look forward to that dopamine hit every day, but you have to decipher what it is in that task that's going to keep you driven and realize that, hey, this is what it's about and this is what I enjoy. And you realize that you won't no longer be looking for motivation. The motivation is there. You just have to make it part of your routine, and getting in that routine and executing those steps, you realize that, okay, I get this massive goal, then it doesn't matter what size the goal is because you're looking for the smaller task that can provide gratification, almost immediately, because that's ultimately what we're looking for. We're looking for that gratification. So decipher, find this gratification in those steps, and you realize that these goals, they'll start being executed a lot quicker than you thought they were, and you enjoy the path, you enjoy the journey because you know what you're looking for now. You're not just looking for the end goal, and you, again, can adjust on the fly. And you achieve more things and you enjoy life better because you know what to look for in your daily basis. So remember, if you do enjoy this video, to hit the like button on the way out. Till next time, I will see you guys later.